Swat Valley sculpture is one of the earliest forms of Himalayan art that we have. We have very little in the way of painting. It's primarily really sculpture. And again, it is the Western Himalayas. So we're talking 6th century to the 9th century AD. And it's really the regions and areas west of Kashmir, Gilgit, Baltistan, Swat itself. So we're just using the word Swat and Swat Valley sculpture style. We're just using that word as a catchphrase for all of this art that's west of Kashmir, and that's an early period. So really we're going from the end of the Gandharan period into this sort of Western Himalayan period prior to the onset really of the Kashmiri style. So now, what's special about Swat Valley style? The art we have is primarily Buddhist. There is other art. There's the Shaiva and Vaishnava. But the art we're looking at is primarily Buddhist. And Swat style is easy to confuse with Kashmiri style. Now, yes, you can't understand this easily without comparing. You have to compare Swat to Kashmir, and you have to compare a lot of pieces. And also when you compare, you can't compare apples and oranges. And by this I mean we have Buddha figures, we have peaceful deity figures, and then we have complex deities. Very few complex deities in both Swat and the Kashmir style. So when you're comparing, you have to compare Buddhas to Buddhas, peaceful deities to peaceful deities, and complex deities to complex deities. That way you have a real idea of what you're looking at and what the differences are. There's no point in comparing two things that are really quite different visually, even though they're regarded as being from the same geographic region and time period and considered under an umbrella term of a specific style. So this is really ends up being very confusing. So you always have to compare like subjects in style comparisons. Now, luckily Swat Valley style sculpture has a very strong apparent characteristic that we don't see in the Kashmir and we do not see in other styles from India or Tibet or other places. And what that is it's either a single lotus or a double stacked lotus seat on top of which the deity sits. And the lotus has very large petals. The flower blossom has large petals. They're generally very smooth. They're not embellished in any way. There's not necessarily any pistils or stamens. There's nothing really to make them stand out aside from their large size and kind of polished quality. Now, where they join, if it's a stacked two flower blossoms, one with the petals pointing upwards and the lower one with the petals pointing downwards, often the point at which the two lotus flowers meet is often very narrow as well. And then this also highlights the very narrow waists of the figures. Both the male and female deities have very narrow waists. So this is something to watch for. They also have very broad chests, and this is something that moves into Kashmiri style art and also Western Tibetan style art. So these are some of the characteristics. So really the main characteristics are the lotus that you look for, the polished, unembellished, large petaled lotus flower, the very thin waist, and then also the subjects. We really only have Buddhas, some peaceful deities, Lokeshvara, Tara, Manjushri, Maitreya, and then we have a very few complex deities. And here the complex is with generally with multiple arms, and then holding different attributes. And these also are usually some form of the deity Avalokiteshvara. So he's moving away from being a bodhisattva student of Shakyamuni Buddha and moving into being a meditational deity with multiple attributes and qualities and characteristics for the meditator to focus upon. So it's just a very brief introduction to Swat Valley sculpture.